say thank you for.
I'd like to call the meeting to order. It is 6:18, and we will start with please take roll call.
Commissioner Gardette? Here. Commissioner Rozier here. Commissioner Gonzalez? Here. Commissioner Marshall Lee? Present. Commissioner Sweeney?
Here.
Commissioner Wright Abdullah?
Here.
Commissioner Williams? Commissioner Martin?
Here.
Commissioner Nims? Commissioner McKnight? Commissioner Markovich? Here. Commissioner Gleason? Commissioner McKenzie? Madam Chair, we have one.
Our first order of business is a general discussion regarding proposed changes to Chapter 4, Mayor, and Chapter 5, City Council. Saturday, we had City Council going to present, and we're continuing the conversation. We will allow any new council members who did not speak on Saturday 3 minutes if they would like to present. And we will, and if you were here Saturday, we would, we would like to allow 1 minute. And then as president of the City Council, you have unlimited time. I do not. Are you making a motion?
Yes, if that's all they do. I'm staying. Howard.
What?
I don't know if any of the council members that are here. I'm going to ask that. Did you ever submit the language on the budget stuff? I know Akeem Boyd is here, so I don't know if you have any questions about his recommendations. And then we have Councilwoman Lilana Smith here. I don't know if you have any recommendations, or Councilman Matt McCarthy who's here with us, if you have any recommendations.
May I know we do this, but Akeem Boyd especially submitted that document the other day, and maybe, if you, I don't know, he probably doesn't have prepared remarks if I know him well enough. But I was curious if you could just, for the 3 minutes they gave you, just address why you thought that 10, what you were thinking when you said 10 members. And we're kind of going in a slightly different direction, but we're looking at maybe like a 15-member body with some at-larges and then one per district. But why did you think it was necessary to go down?
Having been on the council almost 4 years, you don't really need 2 positions. That's why I said just 1 position. You're paying them away.
Okay, hold on.
I'm sorry.
Not the best things.
Would we be breaking FOI by
Put a sign on the door.
Can we go to the council, sir?
You have a council suite for the city attorney's office. Or, they take care of it.
Okay, so you were explaining the rationale for going from 20 to 10.
I don't think you need 2 per district. You need 1 per district. Just pay each member.
So I guess my question would be, you're reducing it to 1 person. I guess, why would you think 1 person isn't enough for a district because they're going to get paid? Will they do the work still or not?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, should you speak up for the?
Yeah, you have to talk really loud.
I'm sorry. We have, is that the only one?
Yep.
Yeah.
We have two now, and I just feel like sometimes it's a waste depending on what you're talking about, but.
Do you think a smaller council would be more
Beneficial for the
productive?
city? I do.
That council members might have more power, like what's
Yes,
your thoughts
absolutely.
behind that?
I think if you dwindle it down to 10, one per district, I think it's better politically. I think it's better for the function of government. That's just how I feel. I can't put it in precise words right now, but
How do you feel about minority representation? Minority party representation? You think it's necessary?
what does that look like now?
Some of the discussion that's on here, five-member at large.
Where three of which would be of one political party, and at least two would have to be of any other political party. And that's is kind of something we've been toying with too, but I'm curious here.
So are you basically forcing other parties to be part of
What you're
government?
doing is creating some, at least opposition.
But like the Board of Ed, like every board and commission in the city, we have statutory requirements, charter requirements, or ordinance requirements that
Creating
force us
more balance of perspectives.
to appoint minor parties.
This commission itself is based on that.
That's true. I don't know how I feel about it for the council. I feel like you're kind of forcing it, but I mean, I see what you're saying. If the folks wanted a Republican, they would vote for Republicans.
But I would love to, there's some other council members I'd love to pose the same questions to, specifically Scott and Matt, who haven't had the chance to address the body yet.
Are there any other comments for Councilman Boyd on his
I'd like
questions?
to
Let's get to questions, please.
John Lee, I'd like to compliment you on taking the time to put your thoughts on paper for the benefit of the commission, number one. Unfortunately, they're not in much depth, and that's why it was important for you to come in. Not sir, John. You know me familiar enough.
Yes.
I've been here for
I
all
always
40
say
years.
sir, John, always.
It is appreciated.
It brought up a lot of conversation.
It's not
And a
that.
lot of, I really appreciate your document because it brought up a lot of conversation amongst ourselves and it made us walk away thinking about it and now we're back here and we got your document in our hand and it's the smallest document we ever received. But we have it in your hand because you were concise. You said point. Now
He's
talk about
going
it.
with less is more.
Yeah, that's right. That's what it is. I'm not trying to be good with it, but I think, everybody else wrote up these big documents, and we don't have any of those in our hand. We have yours in our hand. Less is more.
Actually, the only ones we
Yeah, but
got,
we have them here, but yours is the one we're discussing. You are the one that we really wanted to talk to and ask more questions. You did a great job.
I have a question. The question I have is, the current members of the council now, the community are complaining that we don't have enough representation, or we don't see our council people, they're too busy. But I'm saying, cutting this board under 10 days on your documentation here, how is that going to resolve some of the vast concern of the community at large?
Well, I can't speak for other council members, but I can tell you, King Boyd works overtime to make ends meet. But if you pay King Boyd a wage, I don't have to work at 60 anymore. I can devote my time solely to the community.
So you can less member, you believe, as it is made now. I mean, when you look at the city of Bridgeport, it is growing by population based on the amount of development that's shaping the landscape of Bridgeport. And I'm saying the challenge with the existing, not with you, but some of the existing members that you spoke on Saturday, is a challenge to reach everyone in the community. Do you think even getting paid and working full time, one person would be suffice?
I do. I don't think we're growing as fast as other municipalities in the state, but I think right now, we're at 150 population. No office Stanford are fastly approaching. So I think one would suffice, but again, that's just me.
Do you have any other comments you would like to make from your document?
City council president should preside over council meetings, the mayor can attend. I've never seen Trump preside over House of Representatives, so.
Thank God.
We don't like to talk about it.
Sorry.
The city council should have some type of disciplinary action with regard to improper behavior. We've got this, one I like to admit, over the last 2 terms, and there's not much the city council president can do except censure, and that doesn't seem to stop improper behavior. We need something, I don't know what it looks like, something with a little more teeth to it. Removal, perhaps.
Any other questions or comments for our councilman?
In regards to that disruptive behavior, what are your feelings on an ethics commission and ethics officer?
Depends how it's set up, but I would support that. Right now, the ethics, they don't really, all they do is, I'm coach of miscellaneous matters. And the ethics commissioners, I'm told, just look at background reports for appointees, and that's it. So if you give them more responsibility, like no complaints go to their commission, which doesn't make any sense. If you could fix that, that would be great.
There's also a possibility of finding $250 for violations of the partial putting teeth into the ethics commission. The follow-up to being able to collect those.
What about
$250 for any violation that the ethics commission finds.
Fine.
Fines.
If you violate.
a city employee?
Official.
Or official?
Or official laws.
Oh, okay.
We're just trying to figure out the best way to collect those funds.
250 per violation?
Yep.
Yes.
Is that the max?
Yes.
That's state law.
That's state law. That's state law. That's state law.
I'm just saying, you're not gonna learn behavior, you have to hit it in the pocket at some point. So
Yeah.
that's how they can learn. And then 250 is the max. It can only be per violation, not per day.
You could count every single word, I guess, if you wanted to.
Okay. But actually, you
No,
bring up
you
an
make a
interesting
valid
point.
point.
What if it was, okay, yes, you are fined, but like when does the funding stop? When do we say, okay, you've had 10 violations, you're up? Is, no?
It's against the law.
Is there any Don, do you have recommendations?
Yeah, I'm just, I'd like to, I'm not sure that, did you do this because you just knew the Charter Commission was impaneled? Or because your president asked you to submit your thoughts?
I'm sure both.
Both? Okay. How many of your fellow council members ignored either?
John, I don't think this is the time to ask him that question.
Well, no,
Because he
I'm
doesn't
just,
know.
I'm trying to say that what he is advocating is 2 council members in each district are superfluous. And that's based on behavior. Okay, they're not taking the job as seriously as you do, for instance. Okay, so this group of people who have never met before together are expressing our thoughts from people who've been on the council and have been part of governance or paid taxes a long time. And I guess to pay for a living wage or full-time, to cut the council in half, and with some other provision for at large perhaps. But it just seems to me that maybe some of us are looking for attention to be paid by council members. And that's not going to show up in the charter as we would put it out there. So this is being recorded. So I'm just saying that, let me state, what's the way other than elections to know that the tenor of council practice has risen to the point where we need to consider those things. Remember, on last night, I spoke to the voting in municipal-only elections, not mayoral elections. And in many of the districts, the registration is sitting upwards of that 7,000 number, or averaging that number, and yet you've got hundreds maybe who are voting. This is not a sign of a healthy democracy.
The question is?
Do you think that's a sign of a healthy democracy? Where you're saying one councilman will suffice. Heck, for those folks, 0 councilmen would suffice perhaps.
I wouldn't say 0 councilmen.
No, I agree with you. So what do you think? How did the city council members, individuals, begin to show that they're serious about this stuff? How do the alert council members who participate, who are willing to be responsive to their leader or to the notice that a charter commission is meeting, how do you show that behavior is professional and qualified?
Translation, how do you get city council members to care? At the end of the day, John, they're all grown men and women. They're going to put it in.
Madam Chair, just, if you don't mind, what you're asking is a rhetorical question of one of the councilmen who are sitting here. This is the tale as old as time. This is about each individual human being. I don't think that that's what's on the table at this moment. I think, for 1 out of 20 councilmen to be answering your rhetorical questions rhetorically.
He has made a judgment that one will suffice. Okay? Oh, he's made a judgment. I'm making a judgment that says, I agree with you.
How about one good one would suffice? I mean, if you're going to
How do we
put
get
it out
there?
on the table, how do you get a good person? How do you?
And you do that first. You do that first with elections every 2 years. Perhaps you change.
The seat's hot.
Well, we're having a political philosophy discussion, and I don't need to.
Okay.
Let's
Me too.
I'll shut up. That's okay.
We appreciate your philosophical take on this, but we do have a limited amount of time.
I was gonna say, we do want to hear from a couple of, I know one
And there are
council members,
several other
one has to go, so I wonder if we can call him up next quickly, and then on.
Councilman Boyd, do you have anything else that you would like to share with us?
I appreciate what you guys are doing. Thank you.
Thank you, and again, thank you for submitting your thoughts. Thank you.
May I see your document?
Be careful, that's a hot seat.
Can you please introduce yourself?
I'm Matt McCarthy. I'm a councilman in the 103rd District. When the talk of charter revision came about, I think I was the first one to say that we should shrink the council. 10 I think is too low. I think 15 would be a good number. So we're not going from 2 per district. We're going from 2, not going from 2 to 1. We're going from 2 to 1.5. Now, a paid council, and let me just also preface that I'm not running again. So I don't care about being paid or not, but I think the only time you're going to get better qualified, more responsive candidates is if there's incentive for it. So I think a paid council of 15 would be good, one per district, they run on their own. And the people who will fight against that, I think, can't win on their own. That's my own personal opinion.
And the inclusion of third party representation.
Including minority party representation, however you get to it. But out of those 5, at large, maybe 3 need to be minority party representation. I'll be very candid. The quality of some people on the council is just lacking. Whether it be they don't pay enough attention, they don't read things, they're not responsive, but it's a thing. So I'm just speaking for myself and what I've seen this past 6 years. And I really think the only way the city of Bridgeport is going to get better is with this shrinking council, because of the fact that when we don't think a good thing is passing, it can still pass with 20 people because they have the votes. Shrink the council, then it's more competitive with trying to get votes, you know? So I just feel that needs to be done. Those are my 2 cents on that part of the council. So.
What are your thoughts about the city council president having full authority versus the mayor being the one presiding over the council meeting?
I wouldn't want to see the charter get held up if that was going to be a problem. I think the council president should chair the meetings. I do. If it means the charter, having a lot of good stuff in the charter, change, revision, not passing, I would be okay with that going away. But I do think the council president should run the meeting, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I'm Commissioner McKenzie. Having the president of the council run the meeting, is that will be, she would only have the breaking tie vote, but the last conversation where she had 2 votes. So my question, would she have the only tie vote, which is the one vote to break whatever tie?
Well, she or he, because we don't know who will be council president.
Gender neutral, then.
Repeat that?
The city council president right now, run the meeting with a 2 vote. Question that I have, she be the sole, or he, whoever, be the sole purpose of running that board, would that individual have the 1 vote to break the tie?
Well, it should be 1 vote, because you figure if there's 15, right, 7-7's a tie, they would get the 1 vote to break it.
Correct. I just think it would be defeat the purpose of the president to vote, the regular vote, and then the tie, breaking the tie. I think we should chair the meeting, oversee the meeting, and then we'll have that 1 vote to break whatever the tie. I think that's a better leadership.
Is there a discussion on counter to that, or?
You know, I don't think we actually addressed that issue. Under the current charter now, if the city council president is chairing the meeting, they have 2 votes. But in other legislative bodies, like, House of Representatives, the speaker doesn't get more than 1 vote. They just get theirs. One of the attributes of having a legislative body that's chaired by an executive, the Senate, for instance, in the state, the United States Senate is chaired by the Vice President of the United States, is they cast a vote only when there's a tie. And that's how that system is designed. That's how our city council currently is designed with the mayor chairing the meeting. So we do have to decide this question. If now in the future the city council president is going to be the chair and the mayor's out, how do we break ties? And does the city council president get 2 votes essentially?
Is the council run by Robert Rules of Order?
It's run by the council rules, and if there's something missing in council rules that doesn't cover it, then Robert rules.
So if there's an actual tie, doesn't the motion die?
Not under our current charter. Our current charter, I believe, says that if the council president is chairing the meeting and there is a tie, and we can cite that section for you, I'm sure the city attorney's probably looking for it now, then the council president casts a second vote to break said tie, which is a bit unusual. Maybe when people put this charter together, they were thinking about the fact that otherwise the mayor would be sitting there breaking that tie. And again, just like the state, the United States Senate, that's their only purpose, the only time they get to weigh in on it is when there's a tie.
Would it be practical to revote again as, if there's a tie, give an option to revote, or it just die? I'm just asking this question.
No, I believe if we decide to take the mayor out of the equation, that the council follows Robert's rules of order, and that the motion would die.
So we'd have to change, I just want to be clear, and city attorney, correct me if I'm wrong, but we would have to change this language actively to take away that power.
Or if you were taking it away from the mayor anyways.
No, take away the council president's double vote power.
And is that a council rule?
It's in the charter.
Okay, yeah. But if you have 15, right, the difficulty in answering these questions is you don't know how many people you will have. The answers are different between 15 and 20. I mean, if you have 15, there won't be a tie if everyone's present and voting, right? So presumably, but yeah, it shows up when there's 20, somebody would have to break it. Well, I hear what you're saying.
You can't rely on there's an odd number in the body.
Yeah.
Because there are people missing in every meeting. There's
Yeah.
constantly meetings where we have 18 council members all the time.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, Councilman McCarthy, what do you feel about ethics? Creating an office for the city?
Yep.
Good work.
Also, having the city council on Councilman Boyd's sheet, having the power for disciplinary action for bad behavior. Somehow we should get that in there. I don't know how you could remove an elected official, if it's possible, if it's not, but some type of, I don't know, like you said, fines. Yeah. Something.
Could we add training, like fines, and how about some type of
Behavior training.
or ethics training, or retrain them, retrain them for what they need to
It sounds like it is, don't drive you into a class.
Well-
It's all those things, not that you get like your license or you.
Well, like, listen, in education, if we don't see somebody really following their plan, or they need support, then we provide them support and training, so.
Can I also stress that if we do decide to go down to 15, then there's no more running as groups, because I think some people are concerned about being cut on absentee ballots and things like that, but no, you can run on your own. You can try to win on your own.
I think that's fair.
That's fair.
So we ought to be responsive for the position as vote, and that would give them one incentive to provide service or be represented by the auditor, and not have to stay.
One thing just for the commission is chapter 5, section 4. The language says in the middle of the paragraph, the president of the city council shall preside in the absence of the mayor, and when so presiding shall have a casting vote in case of a tie, in addition to his or her vote as a council member. That's the language says they vote, and then if there's a tie, they vote the second time. But my question was actually going to be on, since you're an accountant and you do taxes, there are multiple council members that raised issues about going from stipends to being paid, let's say a modest, let's say 20 grand, 25 or something like that. What do you make, you know all the stuff that's been thrown out there about people's tax liability, and is it really better, or maybe we should stick to stipends or abuse of the stipends? Do you have an opinion on that?
Don't run. If it affects you financially, personally, don't run. Right? I mean, if you get a W-2, you have your, I think I've heard in the past, I don't know if it's this current council or a past council. I don't know where it came from, but was told that if they got paid, their people would be over a certain income threshold and maybe lose. And again, I don't know if it's current, past, where I heard it from, but I heard that in the past. This is going back a few years, that possibly people would lose benefits. If that's the case, then maybe you just don't run. You have to make that personal decision on your own, whether it's worth staying on city council and getting paid or not doing it. So it's a personal decision on somebody's behalf.
My concern, my biggest thing, people in the city of Bridgeport, we here to serve, and we here to provide information, support, and so forth. So they elect us to help them, provide them with information to help them. But I don't want it to hold up to say, well, I'm going to decide if I'm going to get paid or not to serve the people in the city of Bridgeport. That's not what they deserve. They deserve someone to step up and represent them in every way, aspect as possible. So we have to look at this charter in the best interest of the people in Bridgeport. You know, so we don't want to dictate, to be paid, to be not paid to represent them. They're here, you know what I mean? So we have to look at it from their perspective. What benefit the people of Bridgeport and how do we support them and serve them?
So in response to that, I would say you have very good people out there who want to serve and help and volunteer, well, not volunteer, but serve, but maybe it's just not because they have to work 2 jobs or something. They don't have to work 1 job, or, you know, if there's a paid, if it's paid, you're going to get quality people to serve the people of Bridgeport. This is my own opinion. I don't speak for the rest of my council colleagues. I only speak for myself. So, I mean, I'm not saying that it's, I think it just gives other people who may not want to get involved because of that factor, you know, they need it. You know?
Thank you. Do you have any other comments that you would like to share with us tonight?
I'll probably think in the car.
Well,
Thank you.
you can email
You're
us.
always welcome to the public hearing, too.
Appreciate
that's
it.
It's going to be in your district.
Where? Where else?
June 12th at the library. Library.
So get your friends and relatives out and highest numbers.
Day to speak so.
Be more.
Okay.
Did you want to say?
I'll wait.
Oh, yeah, I don't know, I know Councilman Burns didn't really get a chance to speak the other day, but was to Councilman Lyons.
Hi, I'm Councilwoman Michelle Lyons here. I do have a couple concerns, okay? And one of the concerns that I have is that the changing of the 15 to 10 and then the 5 at large. And the reason is because in my district, I represent the 134th district. And right now, there's a lot of work that needs to be done in that district. And I believe by having 2 council people to be able to split the responsibilities, I think it's very healthy. Because sometimes we also have people that are on the council that if you get sick or the other person gets sick, what happens is that person could take that responsibility. So that is one of the biggest concerns that I have. And then when you have the 5 at large, you may have one group more than the other. And then we have to be responsible for our districts, but we also have to be responsible for what's happening citywide as well. So that's a lot of responsibility. So that's one of the, I'm maybe the old timer on this, but I've been doing this for 20 years, and I can see the work sometimes and the responsibilities of one person doing the work, and I can understand that. Let's just put it that way, okay? The other thing I'm not in favor of, or I'm concerned with, I do believe that we need to handle ourselves more wisely, let me put it that way, on the city council, okay? Because it's a constant battle sometimes with council people and the way they handle themselves and the way they react. But let me put it to you this way, and this is the way I'm a very patriotic individual. Men and women go to war. They lose their arms, they lose their legs, they lose their life. So we have the freedom of speech, and we have the freedom to say what we want, and what not, we should not be disrespectful, but what we want. So, I'm sorry, but I think it's an insult to our veterans and stuff, that when we are elected individuals, if the people don't want us, it's their job to know what's going on and help them know what's going on. And then they have to go to the polls and either elect the person or take them off, or put them back on. But it's also our responsibility as adults to handle ourselves with honor and speak to ourselves, speak to each other with honor. And that's a problem that we are having on the city council. But that's our fault. That's not your fault. That's not the city's fault. That's not the constituents' fault. But I think if we make them know what's going on and we enlighten them and they see this, then they'll know whether they want this individual back in office. But that is why we live in America. We have constitutional rights. And our Constitution's rights is to be able to vote. To vote who we want and who we don't want. So I do appreciate all the hard work that all of you individuals have been doing. This is not an easy job. But these are just my personal opinions, and I hope you take them into consideration.
Can I ask you two questions?
Yes.
So two questions based on what you said. So one of the things that we've been trying to discuss.
Okay, I'm sorry I was late, I apologize.
Oh, no, it's okay. We've been discussing at the last meeting, and there's been talk about trying to include people of minor parties. As you know, right now you have a 20-member, all Democrats. Right. Democrats are going to get elected every district because it's so overwhelmingly Democrat. And it's unlike every single board and commission in the city, even this board, has minor party representation. So there's a push to have some, at least a little bit of minor party representation on the council. Do you agree with that?
Yes, I do. And now let me put it to you this way. You have to, everybody knows my history. Republican when I first started on the city council. I lost by 3 absentee ballots, okay? And so I understand the situation on both sides, okay? But I do believe in minority representation, but you know what? I mean, that's why we have seats. That's what we have to run. Right, this happens to be a city that's a lot of Democrats versus Republicans. It's just, it's unfortunate that we may not have a balance of all things, but that's just where we are right now. But that's why we run for office.
And my second question was about ethics. You seem concerned, and that was a pretty articulate, explanation of council members and all elected officials need to handle themselves in honor. But one of the pushes of the commission is to beef up the ethics commission, give them the authority to fine people in different capacities, and say the $250, but get involved in maybe even some of the matters that have come before the city council. Do you agree with that or disagree with the ethics commission having some authority over some of the stuff that has made the newspaper people aren't happy about?
Well, I understand the ethics play a very, very strong part in what we do and how we handle ourselves. And especially when we first came on the council, when I first came on the council, and so did others, you go in front of the ethics and you try to learn how to handle yourself. And if we're not handling ourselves properly, then the ethics and the mayor can have that priority, they can have that right to come in and do, put a fine in. Is that?
That's what's being discussed.
Okay, you know what, if you can't handle yourself, then, in all fairness, something has to be done. But, and you were mentioning, like classes or whatever the case is, but we are all adults here on the city council. So in my opinion, I don't go attacking people. I don't believe. I mean, one time I got lost my temper once, but you know what? But there has to be something in writing or something that should be done in reference to handling, not handling ourselves properly. So I'm going to leave that up to your discretion, whether you want to talk about putting it in the ethics. I don't have a problem. I don't have a problem. I mean, people get fined for doing, for getting drunk. People get fined for robberies. People get fined for different things. So it's up to you if you think that the ethics has the right. And Mr. John Marshall here are very proponent on stuff like this. So I think that's up to you to decide what you want to do. I don't have a problem because, in my opinion, we should just do what we're supposed to do. Our job is to come to the council, put our opinions in, go back home, bring them to society, bring them to our constituents. So it's up to you what you want to do. I don't have a problem.
I had a question.
John, do you have a question?
Yes.
That's a question, please.
If, it is a question, if we move in the direction of decreasing 20 council members, 2 per district, down to 1 per district, and have, filter in 5 people who are council people at large, that means they're not focused even on the district they're from. They're focused on citywide problems. So I'm kind of curious, is there any restriction that we put on, because this has not been raised, on, is the president of the council going to come from the citywide or from the 10 who only represent one district? On one level, and represent the city on the other. Is there any recommendation you can make on that?
Well, I just feel, only because, like I said, I've been doing this for a long time, and sometimes the workload is very heavy for one council person, okay? And if you have the 5, and you say you have the 5 at large, what is it? You hope that that individual will work with you to help substantiate the issues that you're dealing with. But human nature is human nature. Human nature shows you that, okay, I'm from North End, okay? So your heart, because you live there, is going to be for that area more than it's going to be for other areas. It's human nature. No one's going to tell me any different. That's just the way we're made. So that is one of the issues that I have an issue with, that if more people are more from one area more than the other. And we still have a responsibility as 20 council people, okay, to be able to focus not only on our district, but throughout the entire city. And like, again, I do believe in minority. I told you my story. I believe in minority representation, but that's why we have elections. That's what elections are all about.
So
I don't know if that answers.
no, it does. It shows the direction. So then the underrepresented people in the city, I don't have any way of tracking them by the Secretary of State's archived information. But they seem to be the 20,000 unaffiliated because they're only being considered as one or 2 or 3 of the 5 as to have a position. Is that my understanding? Because I haven't heard that discussed either.
I don't know if I wasn't part of that discussion.
Thank you. I'm just raising it. We'll get back to it.
These are just my concerns.
Thank you.
Thank you, Council.
Did you have a question?
No, I have a question for Madam President.
Yes.
I don't understand if you have 5 at large. The 5 at large help every district. And out of the 5 at large, can one of them be the president of the council?
Any of the 15
Be the president of the council?
The body itself elects the president.
Okay, and that's correct, okay. So then the next question I want to ask you, the new office that you want to open up, that you have your
The
person.
office that we want to enter into the church.
Yes, you have your person already. Is she going to be helping each council person if they need help? Like,
Currently.
but I mean, if you have
Currently,
15.
the office of legislative services helps all 20.
Okay, so if we have 15, she's going to continue to do that.
Office.
So if there's, if one person is overwhelmed at a time, she can step in and help out her office, because from what I understand, you're gonna be adding more people to that office, right?
That's the hope to grow.
Yeah, for that office to grow, and
Yeah.
especially if the council goes down, that office will be able to step in and help, correct?
Yes.
Okay. I just wanted to clarify.
Excuse me.
Yes.
I forgot to say, one thing I am not in agreement with is another council person removing another council person. That was my scenario of the people fighting for the United States of America, because That's why we're elected. So I just thought I'd say that as well. Because if someone gets angry with someone or doesn't agree with someone, that happened to me, so, okay? So, and my position was taken away for a temporary period of time. But, you know, I move on and I forgive and, you know, we move on because that's when we work as a team on the council. But I just wanted to add that in, that I just think that's hard because sometimes we have feelings, we have emotions, and they get in the way sometimes. And that could cause a friction. Thank you.
Attorney Thomas, we had left off whether or not the city of Bridgeport has the authority to remove someone from office. And it was supposed to go, it was questioned, it was presented to the court, so it's like, what?
It has not
Do
been
we?
answered yet.
It hasn't been answered.
No, the discussion was today, actually, but the answer has not been received.
We are going to.
We're still working on it.
We're going to get an answer.
Yep, there's an answer soon.
Because that seems to be the prevailing question around here, whether or not, is there anything more we can do than censure somebody and go as far as to remove? I think that's what a lot of people would like to happen, but that I believe is up to the citizens that elect the individuals.
Well, currently, except for 5 other municipalities.
Maria, did you want to speak?
I just I've been riding for an hour and a half. So my body is. Good evening.
If you want to sit, there is a chair there.
No, it's okay.
Yes, speak loud enough.
Okay. So again, I hear the 10, the 15.
Can you please introduce yourself to the
Oh,
commission?
sorry, I think you all know me.
Just for the record.
Okay, understood. My name is Maria Inez Valle, and I am the councilwoman for District 137, which is the east side, zip code 6608. You're welcome. So I hear the 10, the 15, what do you call it?
At large.
The large. I am really against that for this simple reason. Our district, you might say, it's only 06608. That district is a lot of territory to cover. And I believe that 2 council people will do their job. And we struggle. Removing one, it's going to be difficult. If right now that there's 2 of us and they say, we don't do anything, imagine one. Because it's not only we deal with blight, addressing blight. We have abandoned homes or a absentee landlord who puts a barbed wire on his porch so that the ragamuffins don't enter his premises. So you could imagine. And this is just one little street that has 3 houses that is blighted. One of them is in shambles. And the owner put barbed wire around the perimeter of the front of the house. So again, and that's me, that I drive around and so does council president, right? And we make notations of what's going on and we share each other's issues so that we can address them. And if I get into some kind of a situation where someone did not listen or didn't do their job, that's why she's here. So we help one another. I know that we're not going to, I'm not going to last forever, right? And my passion and my love is for the east side. And so, yes, we need to prepare for the future. But our city continues to grow. So you're taking away one person, putting someone at large that who knows who it is. Perhaps they don't have the same passion as we do. I can't, plant a seed. I mean, I planted a seed, but again, who's going to help it grow? The other thing is that it's you know, again, the struggles that we have. I personally do not recommend, and I hope that you commissioners, would take that into consideration and look at the bigger picture. And if you want to take a ride around the east side, try to get a buggy and take you around so I can show you what I need to help you decide. Thank you.
One moment, does anybody have any questions?
What is your take on the Ethics Commission in your office?
The Ethics Commission, if it means that this office would have to be strong in again, in what somebody has done, it should be done by someone. Again, there are times when, as Michelle stated, there's issues. And now, if you're referring to the ethics for the council people, or you're talking about everyone in general?
For all officials and employees in the city of Bridgeport. Technically, a code of ethics where if they're violating the ethics commission.
I believe they should be dealt with.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I don't know, Scott, or me?
Good evening, Charter Commissioners. Anita Martinez, I represent the 139th District, which is the east end of Bridgeport, 06607. Talk loud.
Now,
Anita Martinez, I represent the 139th District, which is the east end of Bridgeport and Millville, 06607. So my concern is decreasing the elected officials that we currently have as numbers in the district. And I'll say that to say this. It's no secret, back in 2021, I had found myself in a legal issue where I was outsourced by another individual who only served on the council for a period of 6 months because I lost my seat due to an incident that had happened that I was going to court for. And she served for only a period of 6 months and she resigned. The town committee did not want to appoint anyone else to that seat. So it left one individual representing the district. Although I was not an elected official and I had not been sworn in, I was still doing my due diligence as if I was, because I was still receiving phone calls from the constituents from the district who depended on me to continue to help them. So, perfect example today, my partner is not here because we have an NRZ meeting in our district. So I choose to come to charter revision because I had missed a lot of it due to being a part of budget. I wanted to attend budget. So he's at the NRZ meeting tonight and I'm here. So we can exchange what is going on, what happened here, and I'll tell him what happened here. That's another reason as to why decreasing to one person who just can't be everywhere as one sole body. To my council colleague's point, as she stated, the east side and the east end are two big areas that take a whole lot of representation. We have a lot of light in our districts. I focus on a lot of things, and anybody in any department that you speak to, they will tell you that I'm shooting emails at 10, 11, 12, 1, 2 in the morning about stuff that goes on in the district. Illegal businesses. Today, on Carroll Avenue, remodeling a house with no permits. Street mechanic in my district, Assistant Chief Greg handled that today. Motor vehicle, left it alone, they didn't want to touch it. I mean, these individuals came and spoke in public speaking. We have a lot of squatters in our district. I'm staying focused with making sure that the police knows what's happening. We have a lot of events that people are not pulling permits for. and I use the NRZ as an example today, but those are a lot of the things that we as elected officials focus on in our district, but mainly the east side and the east end is very huge for this. So cutting down to one elected official to cover all of this, you will never have a council person that will stay on. I can assure you that. You will never have one council person that will do all of that work. So by doing that, all we're gonna do is crumble our city more than where it is today. So that's all I have to say. That's my input. I'm not in favor of it, and I don't support that.
Thank you for your insight. Does anyone have questions?
I have a question.
Yes.
You have raised a subject that has NRZs. NRZs are not even mentioned in the charter, yet in the last 20 years, or a little bit more, they have become functioning in many areas, giving representation rights to committee members or to citizens, and whether they're utilized or not, but it's also an experience in representing your area that wasn't existing before. And they seem to be positive. I was part of one in my neighborhood, have been, still are. We have a meeting tomorrow night. Should it be mentioned? Is that type of organization of it's apolitical, except it deals with people's problems, with economic development, with taxation.
So how is this related to the city council right now?
I'm curious because I'm hearing things that get mentioned in our talks, like NRZs, that are all over and since the last time the charter was studied, they weren't even across the city the way they are, and yet Anita's giving them a hand up, saying they're important. The police have come to the East End.
I can answer your question, Commissioner.
Thank you.
It's important to the council individuals because we attend these meetings because economic development comes through NRC when they're looking for supportive letters for development that they may bring into the district. We have sometimes the police may come to address the crime in the area to make the community much more comfortable with updating them on what's truly happening, which is part of the council because we do sit on public safety committees. So they feed us information and we in turn may also be able to feed them information. When we go to our NRZ meetings, I take a lot of information back on what's happening in the community, and like they come to us about blight. That's our responsibility because we have to submit that to the appropriate department so that they can correct the issue. Our constituents do not honestly know a lot of the departments that handle different things. So we have to do it. So that's how NRZ and council members are connected. And I can tell you that I know that the east side and the east end NRZ is very connected to the council members that represent those two districts. So that's how it coincides together.
Any other questions?
Councilwoman Martinez, my question for this evening, what's your sense on the Ethics Commission in office? Ethics Commission and the creation of an office?
I would have to say that if the ethics commissioners fulfill their due diligence as elected or appointed to do, I think that an ethics commission office is something good to have. But if they're going to be neutral to what's coming before them and not be selective to decisions that they have to make.
Almost a lot of what we're trying to present is pretty much apolitical, taking it out of the political.
Yes.
arena.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Commissioner, one thing I
One more question.
It's not a question, I just want to make a comment, and I've been honored to be a part of the NRC East Elections. I'm still a member, yes. I'm Councilman Anir, I've been always proactive within the community, sharing with the NRC. Come out, this is the meeting, this is what's happening in town, and she does bring back valuable information to the NRC. And also, if there's an economic project going on, she does come out and notify the NRC and ask them to participate, or she'll bring the economic development person over to speak to the NRC, because I was the NRC, so Thank you. That's all.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you. Thank you.
Chair, originally, was your idea was to put this into, enter it into the charter? To mention in the charter? Is that what your suggestion?
Yes, I think the city, having put in, they don't put in many funds, but they have an important role, or they can have an important role in oversight, in making sure that these groups are self-sustaining and keep a record of that. I think if they're just a hasty opinion, but having been it's not my territory, but the co-op, Successful Village, didn't have anybody to go to in the city when their organization was failing. And the community had to wait 2 years to get, or longer, to get legal in and stop what was going on, and it's cost the city money. So I think where you have organizations or legal entities that need assistance or need wisdom at a moment, that you can direct people to that. It's not expensive. It could be the ethics place, or it could be some other locality. But I think the charter ought to direct as a safety net.
Scott?
Good evening, City Councilwoman Maria Pearl from the 138th District. I just want you to know that it's settled law that you cannot remove an elected official in Simon versus Canty, which is interesting. Steve Mednick, who was hired as we discussed on Saturday by an attorney to get an opinion, he won that case before the Connecticut Supreme Court. He was the lawyer who said that the provisions in the town charter was illegal, and there was another case as well. So it's well settled law. It's actually been really briefed well with what was going on in Stanford. There was an attempt to remove a city council person there. This whole thing about anybody having 2 votes, one of the founding principles of our country is one person, one vote. And when there's a tie in any committee meeting or board, it is settled. The motion fails. You don't need another person to vote to. A tie is a failure. If you have a 7-7 vote, the motion failed. So I don't agree with that. That's not a founding principle of our democracy. One person, one vote. There's nobody in the legislature who gets 2 votes. There's nobody in Congress who gets 2 votes. So I just want to raise that issue. Number 3 is Bridgeport had the largest population growth in the state in the 2020 census. Okay? Not on a percentage basis, but it was about 4,500 additional residents in Bridgeport. I think Greenwich or Stanford was number 1. And then we do have somebody who's supposed to be the ethics czar. That's for Joe Ganim. His name is Ed Adams. He's a former FBI director, employee who helped the prosecutor. We don't know, we've never seen him. We don't know what he's doing around ethics, but he's making a substantial sum of money. But he was supposed to be the ethics czar. As far as $25,000 per city council person, that would be $375,000 annually that we don't have for things that people care about, like funding our public schools. Okay, our schools are being starved financially. And I would say this, if you were to do that, the only elected officials in the entire city who would not be paid would be the school board members. Every other elected official would be paid but the school board, and I don't see how that's equitable in any way. Town clerks are elected and paid, city clerks, the mayor, what else am I thinking? There's another one. We at least get a stipend, the school board gets nothing. You know, I actually think it should have board commissioners shouldn't spend their own money to serve at boards and committees. I mean, there's gas, there's paper, there's printing, they should get some type of stipend.
There's candy.
Candy. I used to be a fan of term limits, but then somebody said something to me and I've never forgotten it. Maria, we already have term limits. It's called elections. Voters can remove anybody they want from office, and if anybody here remembers the illegal takeover of the school board in 2011, which I was a plaintiff and we prevailed in that.
We have three questions of the report. The first was, did you provide the board training? And if you win a case on the first question in the Connecticut Supreme Court, you never get an answer on the second. The second question was, did the state board have the authority to remove 9 elected officials from their office? We felt confident we would have won on that question, but we won on the first question. So if you remember that at the takeover, it was the most expensive charter referendum in the state's history, over $1 million spent. And Bill Finch and his proposed removal of 9 elected school board members failed in a landslide. And it was a catalyst for his removal from office the following election term for him. So voters, we need more democracy in Bridgeport, not less. We need more people elected at the ballot box, not less. And we tell voters, and what we did in that strategy, we just said to voters, when Martin Luther King and all these people ever tell you to give up your right to vote, and that's what we do. And as I said, we prevailed. So that's how we remove elected officials we don't like, at the ballot box. That's what voters do. They remove us if they are not satisfied with our presentation. It's not bureaucrats. It's not people who didn't elect you. We're not even talking about recall where the voters who put you in take you out. We want bureaucratic, no, they're elected, but they're not, they don't represent constituents in that district. So I'm also against, right now, sometimes there are 3-4 meetings going on tonight. If there's one council person, tonight there's a police commission meeting, right? And we have this. How would you ever, you need to kind of split up sometimes. Hey, can you go to that? I need to go to this. We'll share, okay? So I'm against that for those reasons. What if I'm an expectant mother and I'm taking a 12-week maternity leave? Or if my parents get sick and I'm a caretaker, or I'm sick. I don't think voters want less representation. I think they want more, and if you look at the whole issue that happened with the school board, isn't that evidence that voters didn't want to get the rights to elect their school board? So for all those reasons, I'm opposed to this. I do agree, we don't elect a council president, right? We don't vote. We elect 20 members, and those 20 members elect the leader, just like a condominium board, or, right? You don't go to and vote for the president at the board meeting for a condo or a co-op. You elect the members, and then the members elect the leaders, okay? So, that's okay. I don't have a problem with that. And I'm not speaking to who's here or not. Do I believe that the sole authority to govern our meetings, and they certainly should have the ability, should be whoever is elected, the president of the council, and, like school board, any 3 members file a written request for a meeting, and that the chair has 14 days to call it. And if they don't call it, the 3 members who requested it get to set the time, the location, the agenda, and the place. So I think that's in there now, 3 members, but it would say the mayor should call it, I can't remember, but basically in a reasonable time, but that needs to be defined. In state statute, if you school board members request a meeting, if the chair doesn't call that meeting in 14 days, those 3 members get to take it over. Okay? So I'm glad that it seems to be more defined now. I think you are saying 14 days, right? If you request it, the mayor has to call it in 14 days. That's important. It can't be something ambiguous, like, oh, he has to call it, at a reasonable time. It has to be laid out. So, I was going to bring you copies of Simon versus Canty. There's another Supreme Court case. Unfortunately, I had problems with the printer, so I couldn't bring you 13 copies. I will provide it. I will send it to you. But this is settled case law. There are only 5 towns through a special act that can remove officers. The Home Rule Act came out in 1957, where the legislature finally gave some power to the local towns, which included setting up zoning commissions with regulations. It never gave any town the power to remove elected officials. And again, there's been 2 Supreme Court decisions on that. Thank you. I'm sorry, do you have any questions?
Any questions for?
I do. Curious about your thoughts on the minor party representation.
Oh, I'm so for that. I don't understand why people are so frightened of other people's point of views and perspectives. We would have crazy debates on the Board of Education. Joe will tell you that. Okay, we got heated because we're passionate about an issue. Okay, but I love to debate people. Great, you have a point of view? And then I'm going to give you why I disagree with you. That is, I think the worst thing you can have is any elected body where everybody votes unanimously constantly. What do you need a 9-member board for if you're all voting, you only need one? That's the point of having a diverse group of people serve elected or on boards and commissions. Different thoughts, different perspectives, different learned experience or lived experiences, and the majority rule, right? The majority rules. And again, we don't need another vote for anybody. A tie vote is a failure. It fails. You don't need anybody to break a tie. You didn't get a majority. A majority is required. So if you don't have a majority, it's a tie, it fails.
May I follow up?
Yeah.
So I agree with most of what you said, most of your testimony, but my issue is, the Board of Ed is not ineffective because it's only 9 people, despite the fact that, there may be multiple meetings, people have personal issues, whatever.
They're not.
No, they can be effective
Okay.
even though they're only 9. The Hartford City Council only has 9, and most, legislative bodies around the country have many fewer than us with 20. One of the reasons why we're considering shrinking it and doing the at-larges is to incorporate minor party representation, because otherwise we don't know how to do it. So what's your response to that?
Well, you can add 3 more members to 20 and have the seating area in the front converted for them.
So you would expand body under your,
Well, Stanford has 30 council members.
they actually have 40,
Okay, 40.
which I think is crazy.
Okay, but I'm going to tell you something. I presented at the first meeting, the United States Congress put an official cap on the number of members you can have in the House. At one point, they used to represent 70,000, and now because of that artificial cap, they're all representing like 175,000 constituents. People need the people they can get to them, listen to them. I was at the Hartford Capitol today for hours lobbying against a bill, okay? We waited sometimes 2 hours to get our state rep, okay? I think the last one was Marcus, okay? My point is, we need to expand democracies. I think the smaller the district, the better. First of all, almost every district here has at least 2 polling locations, right? And they have, some have 3, so 3 schools. And here's my position. I've always tried to run for the city council. For 26 years straight in the 138, both council representatives Payletter and Kerwin, were from the Hooker neighborhood. In other words, for 26 years, nobody has lived in the JFK precinct, and they're very different from each other. And I really fought to make sure that we have one from each, right? Because I'm not going to drive the streets constantly in Hooker if I live up in JFK. That's just reality, okay? And vice versa. So I don't agree with reducing. I think we should definitely have a minimum of 2. Most people here work, okay? And I don't think the salary would increase the quality. Okay, we have a lot of people in this administration who get a lot of money, and I have many issues with some who are not of the highest quality. That's my position in dealing with them to help resolve issues in my district. So I don't know that equates to better quality, okay? So I would just say, I like the 2. I definitely want minority representation. I don't know how you do that, because it's not, we're not 20 members at large, which is easy when it's our large. But maybe you add, by the way, adding 2 members to 15 is a 13% representation of minority. Every board and commission in the state of Connecticut, 33% of its members must be from a minority party. So adding 2 to 15 is 13%. Okay? So if you're going to do it, I would keep the 20. And I'm always concerned about costs of redoing the council chambers and stuff. I would keep 20. There's extra seating in the front of the River Council and where planning and zoning. The members at large can be seated there. They have the same computers now, right, that we have at our desk. So you can add 3 members, and they must be minority representation. And I don't see how that's unlawful.
That would also be 13%, by the way. 3 out.
Okay, so then, great, let's put 5. There's 7 seats up there. I just think we need to have there's nothing wrong with people having different points of views, different perspectives. Somebody's passion is not that person's passion. Somebody has knowledge in this area and somebody else doesn't. Why are we so frightened of different perspectives and point of view or debate? God, I'll debate you on anything. Okay? And you'll get your piece and I'm going to get mine. And the majority rules, right? That's how it works. That's how it works. The majority will rule, you have a healthy debate, and you move on to the next item. So I do want minority representation. I'm not scared of it. I look forward to it, and I'm more than happy to acquiesce that we need Republicans. Okay, these people don't feel any representation in the city on the city council. You know, progressive, like Working Families Party. I think we should have it. And I definitely against reducing any level of democracy in the city. We need more democracy in this city, not less. Any other questions?
Councilwoman Pereira, my question of the night, what's your feeling on the ethics commission in the office?
Well, we have, so first of all, Ed Adams, the guy I told you he was supposed to run the ethics office. There's supposed to be a whole office of ethics.
We're talking about tomorrow.
Okay, well, no, I don't have a problem with it. Ethics to me, and this was actually part of that Canty lawsuit, ethics to me is like financial malfeasance, you know, getting contracts to people, you're getting a kickback. I'm all for that. Free speech is not an ethical violation, okay? So I'm always going to give my point of view. I don't care who doesn't like it. Because my role is to represent the interests of my constituents. And I don't represent people with power, money, or influence. I'm elected by constituents to represent their interests, and I'm so good at it, I get reelected every single time, no matter how much the opponents spend on me. And say I break into people's houses and climb through windows. They still don't win. So I'm just saying, I'm for ethics. Ethics is really stuff like that, right? I helped get a contract and now I'm getting a kickback. I got my brother-in-law a contract and I didn't disclose he was my brother-in-law. I stole money, okay? That I support of. No, I believe in free speech. I think everybody has a right to their point of view. Does everybody watch a congressional hearing later? What's going on in congressional meetings? Marjorie Taylor Greene brought an entire new photo of Joe Biden's son from that laptop and had it at a congressional hearing, okay? Do I think that's okay? I don't. You have to have some norms, okay? No pornographic, no swearing, stuff like that. But am I right? Am I attached to my point of view? Yes, I am. And I'll probably go to my death believing that. And people have a right to disagree with that. There's already been a Supreme Court ruling. You can get censured for anything. If I say I don't like ham, people have a right to censure me. Okay? And I don't care. You can censure me for that. It's irrelevant to me and it's irrelevant to my constituents. My constituents don't care. But when you start telling people you can't talk at meetings and make motions, that's completely unlawful. Okay? If you're an elected representative, you must represent the interests of your constituents. So, I mean, I'm the only person who's been censured on the city council for 5.5 years, which was interesting. On 6.5 years on the school board, I was never censured. Never censured. But suddenly, you know, whatever.
Can I ask the attorney a question? So as an educator, I'm a public servant. I have certain, I do have limited speech in some cases. And there's nothing for elected officials here. Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Any other councilors?
Good evening, Scott Burns, 130th District. Time and devotion. I just offer a few of my thoughts. Okay. In terms of council makeup, I am in favor of a smaller council. My main thought on that has to do with accountability, because in my years on the council, I've certainly seen where certain council reps kind of disappear. They don't show up at meetings, they don't respond to constituents, they don't, really participate. And yet, the council as a whole continues. So I think if we reduce the number, it would shine a brighter light on the individuals who comprise the council. Then it would be a lot harder to hide, let's say. Your vote would have a little more meaning, would have a little more impact, and perhaps your constituents would pay closer attention to the one of you rather than the two of you, and lumping everyone together. So I do think it's basically a matter of accountability. That if there's fewer of you, you're going to know who's doing what and how that's working. one of my concerns, thoughts on council as well, is that I think oftentimes we get stuck thinking we're doing, kind of lower matters, like, gotta get that stop sign fixed. Yeah, we hear from constituents about, the stop sign got knocked over, so call facilities, PD, whoever, go get it fixed. But the reality is, and this is also about accountability, the city, through its basic operation, should be able to see that a stop sign came down on a corner and just go fix it. They don't necessarily need us to go intervene and do that. And so in a way, that sucks away time and energy from what are the more important things? What are the contracts going to look like with police? What are our policies going to be with fire and zoning and things like that? And I do feel that's where, as elected officials, we can take on some of those weightier matters that really drive the direction and import of the city. We do need to be accountable to everyday matters. People may have concerns with zoning. I just had a fun discussion earlier today on that. But again, that was kind of a higher level thing, not just, what are we going to do on this one particular parcel. So that's really an important issue as far as I'm concerned. Those are my, really main points.
Can you address minor party representation?
Yeah.
And like how we're proposing to do it, I think, well, at least what I'm proposing.
Yeah.
And what Matt endorsed and others was 15, 3 of which can be the major party, 2 can be anything else, whoever gets elected, just similar to the board of that.
Yeah. I like that idea, if not even going to 3 from the minority party. The only thought, two thoughts on this. One, I feel like almost there needs to be a floor for the lowest vote getter from the minority party. So, somebody shows up and they get 11 votes. I have trouble saying that's democracy in action. So if they've really hit, let's say even it's just a minimum of 1% of all votes, then they've garnered 1% of all votes and they can stay on. So I think something like that needs to be considered. The other aspect about minority parties too, obviously it's going to encourage others with different viewpoints, ideas, perspectives, give people an entry point into politics in the city. You do need different voices and points of view, and I think that's important. And the other point, no, I think it's a really important aspect. Oh, I know what to say. I'm sorry. Exactly. I feel that if a person is elected from a minority party, they need to stay in that minority party through the rest of their term. So there's no games being played about flipping, turning, and, I think that did happen on another elected body here fairly recently. So I think that would be kind of important that, if I'm working families, I'm there for 2 years. That's it. So.
Probably one more just about the whole transition from a stipend away to a salary. You're one of the most vocal people I've ever heard on this issue. I assume you like that. And, we've been debating, like, we haven't even gotten to really what's an appropriate amount.
Yeah.
I think we're trying, at least my view is that we're not trying to pay somebody's livelihood through this because it is still, it's a lot of work, but it's a part-time job. We are trying to incentivize good working people to participate if they can. What do you think about this issue?
Yeah, so I think part of what I think shrinking the council would also do, attract stronger candidates because there's fewer people, so they're, again, vote would matter more. And the salary payment might have a similar effect of drawing people out, saying, hey, I can do this as a part-time thing because I can create some compensation for my family, it might encourage me. On the other hand, again, it was shared that Board of Ed, for example, does not get paid. And I guess also, I put in a lot of hours, but not everyone is able to. So if you're able to, allow someone to work maybe half-time and then devote the other 20 hours of the night to council and get some compensation for it, might make some sense. My concern is simply that people might be attracted to it because it's a paid position. That's one of my concerns, and again, the reason not to support that is if you really want to serve your community, find the time, figure it out, make a family decision, and make it happen.
I know you spoke at the public speaking session, and I think you made the point, just to remind you here, that you wouldn't mind having, as in your current position as budget and appropriations, you wouldn't mind having an extra month.
Yes.
Having the material out before you, that would allow for a more open, public, and judicious learning experience for everybody. Okay. Now,
And I'll provide you some written views on that.
I'm also asking, just on your recent conversation with us, you were talking about less weighty issues and weightier issues. Do we see, and I raised the question to Scott, do we see that the 5 members, if there are 5 at large, they're the ones who are dealing with the weightier matters, or it doesn't change, reducing us from 20 to 10? The district people have a specific constituency whose matters they will get referred, but they also have a level of viewpoint. How about the weighty matters facing the city? Isn't that one of the 5 is limited to only the weighty matters? Street paving in a fair manner, public streets on maps, and a charter review at reasonable intervals, not waiting 20 or 30 years. That's a weighty matter. People having opportunities. So do you see that moving from the 20 to the 10, adding 5, does that change the nature of the description that I'm talking about? Very specific district matters to weightier matters that face the whole city.
I guess part of my thought is you might have that interaction where if, you have an at-large representative could work with his or her partner who's actually from the same district, but it may overlap. And again, we have a few neighborhoods where there's overlap. The west side is divided up. Even downtown is divided up. So you might have that kind of interplay. But again, there's fewer than, you might be able to have more conversations among all of you than rather than just having, a group within the larger body where you don't necessarily make a lot of progress.
Thank you.
Do you think there are any other questions?
One quickly, your take on the mayor presiding at the meetings and moving that piece of the charter and turning that over to the city council president?
Yes.
Councilman, I guess I'm not going to let you escape. You said so. Ethics is in the office.
Yeah, I think a stronger ethics body would help everyone. I think in terms of even defining what is good and appropriate behavior, and again, not just for elected, but for public officials as well. I'm sorry, public employees. To have a sense of what is good and proper behavior when you advocate for your church, when, you're an employee, or you're an elected person, or, your sports team or whatever, just to have a sense of what those guidelines are. I believe there was discussion of a paid ethics position for director.
Yes.
Yeah, for director. So I'm a little leery of that, and my thinking on that.
Commission, you have a director for fair revenue.
What's that?
Is there a director for fair revenue?
We have a clerk, yeah.
Director or clerk, if there's a paid position, correct?
Yeah. So my only concern is, number one, there is an ethics commission now appointed, and they serve. Again, it doesn't have the teeth that I think we all agree it should have. But if you have a paid position, does that paid position then, almost go and seek problems, issues, and kind of justify the position, or is it just maybe a task assigned to a person within a larger office? I don't know, but just in terms of a city with a very limited budget.
Some of those ideas are outlined.
Okay.
It's outreach, it's education, so on and so forth. It's actually taking the extremes more involved, so whatever sense.
Okay. Well, if it makes a justified point of view, sure. But that's my only concern is it should be there as an backbone, not a precedent. Yeah, and we've got a lot of paid positions. And others that's the
Thank you, Council.
all right.
We're at 7:50. Do we have any other council members who would like to speak?
I have a question, Commissioner. Can I make another statement or no?
Sure.
Thank you.
They apologize for being loud, but they offered pizza. I guess that's nice, it's cold.
That's an insult to me, I can't even.
Trying to address everything else with regards to why we need elected officials in the district. I forgot to mention that I think it would be a good idea if we could coincide the elected official with the mayor's election so that instead of a 2-year term, it's a 4-year term. And you don't have to be campaigning every 2 years or switching up with different elected officials every 2 years. So sometimes the constituents get confused every election as to who's my council person, who got elected, who didn't. It's just my input. It's my right to give the input. So it's just what I'm trying to remind us again. Thank you.
Questions, comments?
I don't have a question for the council. I think we've got good questions about the council procedure. I noticed that most of the questioners asked questions about ethics too. And it just dawns on me that I think Maria said she doesn't know what a certain person is doing in government today. But as a matter of fact, he is responsible for, his name is on the bus, passing the bus while stationary. His name is on those materials. In charge of the Office of Accountability and Integrity, he may have some ideas that might be worthwhile to us. We don't hear him talking about accountability and integrity in town. So might it be possible that he might have something to share with us in 8 years of service under the title of accountability and integrity? Might he have something to share that's worthwhile for the charter committee looking at?
I mean, what I would say on it is I think the initial I was there when there was initially a very similar concept to what the council, I mean, what this group is talking about now, creating an ethics commission that has an office and all that kind of stuff, way back when. I think I remember writing on paper a concept, very simple, an office, staff, it would almost be like an inspector general type position. None of that ever came to be. The council was divided almost in half at the time. And so this label that's been placed on this person, this officer, has never been an appropriate label. And it drives me crazy every time I hear it, because it's just not how it's designed, and really has no jurisdiction. The Ethics Commission has jurisdiction over these matters. If he got involved in them, he'd be outside his lane. So, I mean, he does certain things within the city government having to do with like checking materials and contracts and things that go to the mayor for signature, for instance, so maybe some internal stuff. But that is at the discretion of the mayor as a mayoral appointee. He has no charge anywhere that I could find, no authority over general city government ethical issues outside of what he's charged with by the mayor. So, you know, again, it could have been more from day one, but it just wasn't. And the city council at the time was not interested in doing that. I think this body is talking about creating, again, a very similar concept to what I had in my mind at that time. I was only 23 at the time, trying to draw this stuff up, and I had no idea what we were even talking about at that point, right? But I think we're trying to get there now. But reality will set in that there's only so much money to go
And you
around.
now know the difference between a concept and a plan and an actual project that's executable. Okay. Because we've had that experience. And so that's good advice. I guess what I'm thinking about is if you're saying that he's in a misnamed position, then I guess that what do we do when there's supposed to be an appointment process currently and people are not appointed? Is that high value weight or a low value weight? Does that, where do people feel about that? Because the city council realized that the fair rent and fair housing hadn't been 3 years ago, had not gone, and not been honored, even though people think they were, and a couple of people who spoke to the council last night assumed that there was a fair housing position. Well, there is an ordinance on paper, but there's no staffing, there's no commission members, right? So what happens when there's fair housing and no members? Is that a weighty or not? Is that the type of thing that could get dealt with by an ethics commission?
You know,
Mr. Cruz, there's a reason I asked this question to all the council members that were here. I was trying to ascertain whether or not we managed to work. So I believe from our own registration, we have the support team in the ethics commission in the office. Thank you.
I'm not looking to extend the meeting. I just thought it's natural for these questions to come up when you look beyond the horizon.
It is 7:57. We'll do it. Let me just pause. Is there anyone else from city council who would like to speak? Address any part of the mayor's chapter? Okay. We'll table that part. Attorney Tom just is sharing this. On Saturday, we were given charter, a chart like this, but it was related to just charters, the research on charters. She has done also the research on ordinances related to the ethics and ethics and governance, in government, ethics and conflicts of interest, code of ethics, and these are from New Haven, Waterbury, Norwalk, Hampton, and Bridgeport. So this is more information that you should look at, because we did receive Attorney Tom's draft of our ethics proposal as well, so that is something that you should also look into as well. It's coming around, and this is going to be exhibit
Exhibit 1?
Yes. Okay. Attorney Tom, did you want to speak to this at all? Sorry, I didn't mean to steal your moment on the microphone. Okay, so are there any, the next part of our agenda is any discussion, brief discussion on anything that we've talked about before. So are there any, it's coming around. It's coming around.
I have a word stop. I
Issue members.
need to go to
I
commission
think a couple,
members.
I'll report around.
Read it for the commission members, please. They're getting it back.
It's Anthony's fault.
I'll look at this.
I'm all of these. Plus a few.
Okay.
We're in City Hall, we can't be back.
If you look at number 2 on our agenda, does anyone have any comments or questions about that section? Going once, going twice? Okay. And then number 3 is discussion and review of possible actions regarding the charter schedule. I just want everybody to be clear on the next couple of dates. We have Saturday, May 30th. It is 9 a.m., not 10 a.m. You're meeting at 9 a.m. Where we will have the civil service presentation on June 5th, which is a Thursday. That is a 6 p.m. meeting, and that is a continuation of the civil service discussion. And then we have Tuesday, June 10th at 6 p.m. The topic is still to be determined, but I think at that point, we should, as a commission, be making some decisions, like voting. And then Thursday, June 12th is a public hearing, 6 p.m. at Black Rock Library, which is located on 2705 Fairfield Avenue. And then we have our Saturday, June 14th, that we kept it at 10 a.m. And that will be the final vote on charter revision proposals so that we can transmit it to the council. Yes.
I just want to say, again, that the staff are working really hard on the civil service stuff. And, you know, you got the summary of the last meeting, but I think
Yes.
what I proposed to them, because they kind of asked, like, what's the best way to do this, is they're going to give us a presentation. And start putting together a PowerPoint based on their changes. So that we get real changes, line item changes, but we'll get like an explanation of the civil services and what the goals are, and then they're going to try to attach their line changes with their ultimate goals of protecting civil services. They're doing a lot of work.
Do
The way it's going to go to City Hall, right?
You know,
Are we changing location then?
We talked about that with them, and they're able, you know, they can print their presentation.
Oh, perfect.
So it's up to us if we want to change location, but we don't really have to. We don't want to. We like having more room. You know, they're just going to print.
If they're going to print us something that we can look at and follow along as they present, that would be great.
We've been using this space because there's a lot of us, and it allows
Yes.
other people to comfortable with that.
And so the first day would be a presentation, the second day would be our questions and go more.
Well, I think there are going to be questions as they go through the presentation, but yeah, I think the purpose of having at least today was to digest heavy material, and that's all.
Thank you. I will make a motion to adjourn. I will recognize a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Okay, Lee and McHenry. Yes, Ed's 8:03.
You've got your bedtime.
Thank you, everyone, for attending tonight, and thank you for your insight to the city council members. Thank you so much for your time tonight.